analyses, also known as job safety analyses. Information about hazards may be available from outside sources, such as OSHA, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, websites, publications, and alerts. Trade associations, labor unions, state and local occupational safety and health committees, coalitions, COSH groups, and worker advocacy groups. Safety and health consultants. Action 2. Inspect the workplace for safety hazards. Hazards can be introduced over time as workstations and processes change, equipment or tools become worn, maintenance is neglected, or housekeeping practices decline. Setting aside time to regularly inspect the workplace for hazards can help identify shortcomings so that they can be addressed before an incident occurs. Conduct regular inspections of all operations, equipment, work areas, and facilities. Have workers participate on the inspection team and talk to them about hazards that they see or report. Be sure to document inspections so you can later verify that hazardous conditions are corrected. Take photos or videos of problem areas to facilitate later discussion and brainstorming about how to control them and for use as learning aids. Include all areas and activities in these inspections, such as storage and warehousing, facility and equipment maintenance, purchasing and office functions, and the activities of on-site contractors, subcontractors, and temporary employees. Regularly inspect both plant vehicles, for example, forklifts, powered industrial trucks, and transportation vehicles, for example, cars, trucks. Use checklists that highlight things to look for. Typical hazards fall into several major categories, such as those listed below. Each workplace will have its own list. General housekeeping. Slip, trip, and fall hazards. Electrical hazards. Equipment operation. Equipment maintenance. Fire protection. Work organization and process flow, including staffing and scheduling. Work practices. Workplace violence. Ergonomic problems. Lack of emergency procedures. Before changing operations, workstations, or workflow, making major organizational changes, or introducing new equipment, materials, or processes, seek the input of workers and evaluate the planned changes for potential hazards and related risks. Note: many hazards can be identified using common knowledge and available tools. For example, you can easily identify and correct hazards associated with broken stair rails and frayed electrical cords. Workers can be a very useful internal resource, especially if they are trained to identify and assess risks. Action 3. Identify health hazards. Identifying workers' exposure to health hazards is typically more complex than identifying physical safety hazards. For example, gases and vapors may be invisible, often have no odor, and may not have an immediately noticeable harmful health effect. Health hazards include chemical hazards, solvents, adhesives, paints, toxic dusts, etc., physical hazards, noise, radiation, heat, etc., biological hazards, infectious diseases, and ergonomic risk factors, heavy lifting, repetitive motions, vibration. Reviewing workers' medical records, appropriately redacted to ensure patient-worker privacy, can be useful in identifying health hazards associated with workplace exposures. Identify chemical hazards. Review SDSs and product labels to identify chemicals in your workplace that have low exposure limits, are highly volatile, or are used in large quantities or in unventilated spaces. Identify activities that may result in skin exposure to chemicals. Identify physical hazards. Identify any exposures to excessive noise, areas where you must raise your voice to be heard by others, elevated heat, indoor and outdoor, or sources of radiation, radioactive materials, X-rays, or radiofrequency radiation. Identify biological hazards. Determine whether workers may
Ne
be
znam šta
exposed
čekam,
to
znači
sources
idem
of
po
infectious
utopim se i
diseases,
gotovo, nemam ja
molds,
šta da igram s
toxic
ovim
or
heavy ovu
poisonous
mapu,
plants,
ne
or
želimo da se
animal
zajebamo.
materials, fur or scat, capable of causing allergic reactions or occupational asthma. Identify
Jest,
ergonomic
jest.
risk factors,
Boje
examine work
su znači
activities that
boje.
require heavy
Boje,
lifting, work
debilno.
above shoulder height, repetitive motions, or
Debilizam.
tasks with significant vibration. Conduct quantitative exposure assessments when possible, using air sampling or direct reading instruments. Review medical records to identify cases of musculoskeletal injuries, skin irritation or dermatitis, hearing loss, or lung disease that may be related to workplace exposures. Note: identifying and assessing health hazards may require specialized knowledge. Small businesses can obtain free and confidential occupational safety and health advice services, including help identifying and assessing workplace hazards, through OSHA's on-site consultation program.
Tako, isključiš special
Action
events i
4.
nećeš
Conduct
dobijati
incident
jebene
investigations.
mape specijalnim
Workplace
efektima.
incidents, including injuries,
Malinovku,
illnesses,
Prokuhorovku,
close calls near misses, and
retardirku,
reports of other
znači
concerns, clearly indicate where
Murovanku,
hazards
tamo nema
exist.
ništa specijalno,
By
znači nju
thoroughly
mogu dobiti još
investigating
uvijek.
incidents and
Ali
reports,
Malinovki i
you will
Prokuhorovki
identify
bez
hazards
specijalnih
that are
efekata
likely to
nećemo
cause future
dobijeti.
harm. The
To mi
purpose
je
of an
mater,
investigation must always be to
koji mi je
identify the
mater,
root
znači igramo
causes, and there
heavije,
is often
nećemo
more
više
than one,
ništa.
of the incident or concern in order to prevent future occurrences. Develop a clear plan and procedure for conducting incident investigations so that an investigation can
Jao,
begin
pa to je to,
immediately when an
znači od
incident
sada pa
occurs.
nadalje u budući
The
igramo samo
plan should
heavije.
cover items such as who will be involved, lines of communication, materials, equipment, and supplies needed, reporting forms and templates. Train investigative teams on incident investigation techniques, emphasizing objectivity and open-mindedness throughout the investigation process. Conduct investigations with a trained team that includes representatives of both management and workers.
Tako, odmah
Investigate
padni.
close calls near misses. Identify and analyze root causes to address underlying program
nećemo više
shortcomings that
specijalni
allowed
ovi
the
budalaši.
incidents to happen. Communicate the results of the investigation to managers, supervisors, and workers to prevent recurrence. Effective incident investigations do not stop at identifying a single factor that triggered an incident. They ask the questions why and what led to the failure. For example, if a piece of equipment fails, a good investigation asks, why did it fail? Was it maintained properly? Was it beyond its service life? And how could this failure have been prevented? Similarly, a good incident investigation does not stop when it concludes that a worker made an error.
Majmune jedan,
It asks
majmunski.
such questions as, was the worker provided with appropriate tools and time to do the work? Was the worker adequately trained? And was the worker properly supervised? Note: OSHA has special reporting requirements for work-related incidents that lead to serious injury or a fatality. 29 CFR 1904.39. OSHA must be notified within 8 hours of a work-related fatality and within 24 hours of an amputation, loss of an eye, or inpatient hospitalization. Action 5. Identify hazards associated with emergency and non-routine situations. Emergencies present hazards that need to be recognized and understood. Non-routine or infrequent tasks, including maintenance and startup shutdown activities, also present potential hazards. Plans and procedures need to be developed for responding appropriately and safely to hazards associated with foreseeable emergency scenarios and non-routine situations. Identify foreseeable emergency scenarios and non-routine tasks, taking into account the types of materials and equipment in use and the location within the facility. Scenarios such as the following may be foreseeable: fires and explosions, chemical releases, hazardous material spills, startups after planned or unplanned equipment shutdowns, non-routine tasks, such as infrequently performed maintenance activities, structural collapse, disease outbreaks, weather emergencies and natural disasters, medical emergencies, workplace violence. Action 6. Characterize the nature of identified hazards, identify interim control measures, and prioritize the hazards for control. The next step is to assess and understand the hazards identified and the types of incidents that could result from worker exposure to those hazards. This information can be used to develop interim controls and to prioritize the hazards for permanent control. Evaluate each hazard by considering the severity of potential outcomes, the likelihood that an event or exposure will occur, and the number of workers who might be exposed. Use interim control measures to protect workers until more permanent solutions can be implemented. Prioritize the hazards so that those presenting the greatest risk are addressed first. Note, however, that employers have an ongoing obligation to control all serious recognized hazards and to protect workers. Note, risk is the product of hazard and exposure. Thus, risk can be reduced by controlling or eliminating the hazard or by reducing workers' exposure to hazards. An assessment of risk helps employers understand hazards in the context of their own workplace and prioritize hazards for permanent control. Hazard prevention and control. Effective controls protect workers from workplace hazards, help prevent injuries, illnesses, and incidents, minimize or eliminate safety and health risks, and help employers provide workers with safe and healthful working conditions. The processes described in this section will help employers prevent and control hazards identified in the previous section. To effectively control and prevent hazards, employers should take the following actions. Action 1. Identify control options. Action 2. Select controls. Action 3. Develop and update a hazard control plan. Action 4. Select controls to protect workers during non-routine operations and emergencies. Action 5. Implement selected controls in the workplace. Action 6. Follow up to confirm that controls are effective. Safety and health education and training. Education and training are important tools for informing workers and managers about workplace hazards and controls so they can work more safely and be more productive. Another role of education and training, however, is to provide workers and managers with a greater understanding of the safety and health program so they can contribute to its development and implementation. Education and training provide employers, managers, supervisors, and workers with knowledge and skills needed to do their work safely and avoid creating hazards that could place themselves or others at risk. Awareness and understanding of workplace hazards and how to identify, report, and control them. Specialized training when their work involves unique hazards. Additional training may be needed depending on the roles assigned to employers or individual managers, supervisors, and workers. For example, employers, managers, and supervisors may need specific training to ensure that they can fulfill their roles in providing leadership, direction, and resources for the safety and health program. Workers assigned specific roles in the program, for example, incident investigation team members, may need training to ensure their full participation in those functions. Effective training and education can be provided outside a formal classroom setting. Peer-to-peer training, on-the-job training, and worksite demonstrations can be effective in conveying safety concepts, ensuring understanding of hazards and their controls, and promoting good work practices. The following actions ensure an effective safety and health training program. Action 1. Provide program awareness training. Action 2. Train employers, managers, and supervisors on their roles in the program. Action 3. Train workers on their specific roles in the safety and health program. Action 4. Train workers on hazard identification and controls. Action 1. Provide program awareness training. Managers, supervisors, and workers all need to understand the program structure, plans, and procedures. Having this knowledge ensures that everyone can fully participate in developing, implementing, and improving the program. Provide training to all managers, supervisors, employees, and contract, subcontract, and temporary agency workers on safety and health policies, goals, and procedures. Functions of the Safety and Health Program. Whom to contact with questions or concerns about the program, including contact information. How to report hazards, injuries, illnesses, and close calls near misses. What to do in an emergency. The employer's responsibilities under the program. Workers' rights under the Occupational Safety and Health Act. Provide information on the safety and health hazards of the workplace and the controls for those hazards. Ensure that training is provided in the languages and at a literacy level that all workers can understand. Emphasize that the program can only work when everyone is involved and feels comfortable discussing concerns, making suggestions, and reporting injuries, incidents, and hazards. Confirm, as part of the training, that all workers have the right to report injuries, incidents, hazards, and concerns and to fully participate in the program without fear of retaliation. Action 2. Train employers, managers, and supervisors on their roles in the program. Employers, managers, and supervisors are responsible for worker
Može.
safety, yet sometimes have little training on safety-related concepts and techniques. They may benefit from specific training that allows them to fulfill their leadership roles in the program. Reinforce employers, managers, and supervisors' knowledge of their responsibilities under the Occupational Safety and Health Act and the workers' rights guaranteed by the Act. Train employers, managers, and supervisors on procedures for responding to workers' reports of injuries, illnesses, and incidents, including ways to avoid discouraging reporting. Instruct employers, managers, and supervisors on fundamental concepts and techniques for recognizing hazards and methods of controlling them, including the hierarchy of controls, see hazard prevention and control. Instruct employers, managers, and supervisors on incident investigation techniques, including root cause analysis. Action 3. Train workers on their specific roles in the safety and health program. Additional training may be needed to ensure that workers can incorporate any assigned safety and health responsibilities into their daily routines and activities. Instruct workers on how to report injuries, illnesses, incidents, and concerns. If a computerized reporting system is used, ensure that all employees have the basic computer skills and computer access sufficient to submit an effective report. Instruct workers assigned specific roles within the safety and health program on how they should carry out those responsibilities, including hazard recognition and controls, participation in incident investigations, program evaluation and improvement. Provide opportunities for workers to ask questions and provide feedback during and after the training. As the program evolves, institute a more formal process for determining the training needs of workers responsible for developing, implementing, and maintaining the program. Action 4. Train workers on hazard identification and controls. Providing workers with an understanding of hazard recognition and control and actively involving them in the process can help eliminate hazards before an incident occurs. Train workers on techniques for identifying hazards, such as job hazard analysis, see OSHA Publication 3071. Train workers so they understand and can recognize the hazards they may encounter in their own jobs, as well as more general work-related hazards. Instruct workers on concepts and techniques for controlling hazards, including the hierarchy of controls and its importance. Train workers on the proper use of work practice and administrative controls. Train workers on when and how to wear required personal protective equipment. Provide additional training, as necessary, When a change in facilities, equipment, processes, materials, or work organization could increase hazards and whenever a worker is assigned a new task. Action 1. Identify control options. A wealth of information exists to help employers investigate options for controlling identified hazards. Before selecting any control options, it is essential to solicit workers' input on their feasibility and effectiveness. Collect, organize, and review information with workers to determine what types of hazards may be present and which workers may be exposed or potentially exposed. Information available in the workplace may include: review sources such as OSHA standards and guidance, industry consensus standards, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, publications, manufacturers' literature, and engineering reports to identify potential control measures. Keep up to date on relevant information from trade or professional associations. Investigate control measures used in other workplaces and determine whether they would be effective at your workplace. Get input from workers who may be able to suggest and evaluate solutions based on their knowledge of the facility, equipment, and work processes. For complex hazards, consult with safety and health experts, including OSHA's on-site consultation program. Action 2. Select controls. Employers should select the controls that are the most feasible, effective, and permanent. Eliminate or control all serious hazards, hazards that are causing or are likely to cause DOT or serious physical harm, immediately. Use interim controls while you develop and implement longer-term solutions. Select controls according to a hierarchy that emphasizes engineering solutions, including elimination or substitution, first, followed by safe work practices, administrative controls, and finally personal protective equipment. Avoid selecting controls that may directly or indirectly introduce new hazards. Examples include exhausting contaminated air into occupied workspaces or using hearing protection that makes it difficult to hear backup alarms. Review and discuss control options with workers to ensure that controls are feasible and effective. Use a combination of control options when no single method fully protects workers. Note: whenever possible, select equipment, machinery, and materials that are inherently safer based on the application of prevention through design (PTD) principles. Apply PTD when making your own facility, equipment, or product design decisions. For more information, see the link to the NIOSH PTD initiative and additional resources. Action 3. Develop and update a hazard control plan. A hazard control plan describes how the selected controls will be implemented. An effective plan will address serious hazards first. Interim controls may be necessary, but the overall goal is to ensure effective long-term control of hazards. It is important to track progress toward completing the control plan and periodically, at least annually and when conditions, processes, or equipment change, verify that controls remain effective. List the hazards needing controls in order of priority. Assign responsibility for installing or implementing the controls to a specific person or persons with the power or ability to implement the controls. Establish a target completion date. Plan how you will track progress toward completion. Plan how you will verify the effectiveness of controls after they are installed or implemented. Action 4. Select controls to protect workers during non-routine operations and emergencies. The hazard control plan should include provisions to protect workers during non-routine operations and foreseeable emergencies. Depending on your workplace, these could include fires and explosions, chemical releases, hazardous material spills, unplanned equipment shutdowns, infrequent maintenance activities, natural and weather disasters, workplace violence, terrorist or criminal attacks, disease outbreaks, for example, pandemic influenza, or medical emergencies. Non-routine tasks, or tasks workers don't normally do, should be approached with particular caution. Prior to initiating such work, review job hazard analyses and job safety analyses with any workers involved and notify others about the nature of the work, work schedule, and any necessary precautions. Develop procedures to control hazards that may arise during non-routine operations, for example, removing machine guarding during maintenance and repair. Develop or modify plans to control hazards that may arise in emergency situations. Procure any equipment needed to control emergency-related hazards. Assign responsibilities for implementing the emergency plan. Conduct emergency drills to ensure that procedures and equipment provide adequate protection during emergency situations. Note: depending on your location, type of business, and materials stored or used on site, authorities including local fire and emergency response departments, state agencies, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Homeland Security, and OSHA may have additional requirements for emergency plans. Ensure that your procedures comply with these requirements. Action 5. Implement selected controls in the workplace. Once hazard prevention and control measures have been identified, they should be implemented according to the hazard control plan. Implement hazard control measures according to the priorities established in the hazard control plan. When resources are limited, implement measures on a worst-first basis, according to the hazard ranking priorities, risk, established during hazard identification and assessment. Note, however, that regardless of limited resources, employers have an obligation to protect workers from recognized, serious hazards. Promptly implement any measures that are easy and inexpensive, for example, general housekeeping, removal of obvious tripping hazards such as electrical cords, basic lighting, regardless of the level of hazard they involve. Action 6. Follow up to confirm that controls are effective. To ensure that control measures are and remain effective, employers should track progress in implementing controls, inspect and evaluate controls once they are installed, and follow routine preventive maintenance practices. Track progress and verify implementation by asking the following questions. Have all control measures been implemented according to the hazard control plan? Have engineering controls been properly installed and tested? Have workers been appropriately trained so that they understand the controls, including how to operate engineering controls, safe work practices, and PPE use requirements? Are controls being used correctly and consistently? Conduct regular inspections and industrial hygiene monitoring, if indicated, to confirm that engineering controls are operating as designed. Evaluate control measures to determine if they are effective or need to be modified. Involve workers in the evaluation of the controls. If controls are not effective, identify, select, and implement further control measures that will provide adequate protection. Confirm that work practices, administrative controls, and personal protective equipment use policies are being followed. Conduct routine preventive maintenance of equipment, facilities, and controls to help prevent incidents due to equipment failure. Safety and health program elements. Practice opportunity. In this activity, you will match key elements of an effective safety and health program with their corresponding descriptions. Match each term with the correct definitions. Lesson Summary. Effective management of worker safety and health programs. Reduces the extent and severity of work-related injuries and illnesses. Improves employee morale and productivity. Reduces workers' compensation costs. Organized and systematic methods are used to assign responsibility to managers, supervisors, and employees. Regularly inspect for hazards and control the hazards. Regularly re-evaluate the effectiveness of existing programs. Orient and train all employees to eliminate or avoid hazards. Major elements of a safety and health program include the following. Management provides the leadership, vision, and resources needed to implement an effective safety and health program. Management leadership means that business owners, managers, and supervisors make worker safety and health a core organizational value, are fully committed to eliminating hazards, protecting workers, and continuously improving workplace safety and health, provide sufficient resources to implement and maintain the safety and health program, visibly demonstrate and communicate their safety and health commitment to workers and others, set an example through their own actions. All workers are encouraged to participate in the program and feel comfortable providing input and reporting safety or health concerns. They should also have access to information they need to participate effectively in the program. To identify and assess hazards, employers and workers should collect and review information about the hazards present or likely to be present in the workplace, conduct initial and periodic workplace inspections to identify new or recurring hazards, investigate injuries, illnesses, incidents, and close calls near misses to determine the underlying hazards, their causes, and safety and health program shortcomings, group similar incidents and identify trends in reported injuries, illnesses, and hazards, consider hazards associated with emergency or non-routine situations, determine the severity and likelihood of incidents that could result for each hazard identified and use this information to prioritize corrective actions. Effective controls protect workers from workplace hazards, help avoid injuries, illnesses, and incidents, minimize or eliminate safety and health risks, and help employers provide workers with safe and healthful working conditions. Education and training are important tools for informing workers and managers about workplace hazards and controls so they can work more safely and be more productive. Another role of education and training, however, is to provide workers and managers with a greater understanding of the safety and health program itself so that they can contribute to its development and implementation. Lesson 2. OSHA Safety and Health Programs. Lesson Focus. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to describe how and why state programs operate. Describe the consultation services available from OSHA. Explain the Voluntary Protection Programs, VPPs. Explain the Strategic Partnership Program. Identify key elements of training and education. Locate necessary electronic information. State programs. The Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, OSHA Act, encourages states to develop and operate their own job safety and health plans, which OSHA then approves and monitors. There are currently 28 state territory plans, 22 cover both private and public, state and local government, employment, 6 states territories, Connecticut, Illinois, Maine, New Jersey, New York, and the Virgin Islands, have plans that cover the public sector only and use federal OSHA regulations for private industry. There are 28 states territories that use only federal OSHA regulations. More information, always check the full details and a current map of state territory plans. States and territories with their own OSHA-approved occupational safety and health plans must adopt and enforce standards identical to, or at least as effective as, the federal standards and provide extensive programs of voluntary compliance and technical assistance, including consultation services. Consultation services. Consultation assistance is available upon request to employers who want help in establishing and maintaining a safe and healthful workplace. Funded equally by OSHA and each state, consultation services are provided at no cost to the employer. Each state, whether it uses the federal plan or its own state plan, operates the consultation program for that state. Primarily developed for smaller employers with more hazardous operations, the consultation service is delivered by state governments employing professional safety and health consultants. Comprehensive assistance includes a hazard survey of the work site and appraisal of all aspects of the employer's existing safety and health management system. In addition, the service assists employers in developing and implementing an effective safety and health management system. There are no penalties or citations issued for hazards identified by the consultant. The employer's only obligation is to correct all serious hazards identified by the consultant within the agreed-upon correction timeframe. OSHA provides consultation assistance to the employer with the assurance that his or her name, firm, and any information about the workplace will not be reported to OSHA enforcement staff. Under the consultation program, certain exemplary employers may request participation in OSHA's Safety and Health Achievement Recognition Program, SHARP. Eligibility for participation in SHARP includes, but is not limited to, receiving a full-service, comprehensive consultation visit, correcting all identified hazards, and developing an effective safety and health program management system. Employers accepted into SHARP may receive an exemption from programmed inspections, not complaint or accident investigation inspections, for a period of 2 years initially, or up to 3 years upon renewal. Voluntary Protection Programs, VPPs. Voluntary Protection Programs, VPPs, recognize employers and workers in the private industry who have implemented effective safety and health management systems and maintain injury and illness rates below National Bureau of Labor Statistics averages for their respective industries. To participate, employers must submit an application to OSHA and undergo a rigorous on-site evaluation by a team of safety and health professionals. In VPPs, management, labor, and OSHA work cooperatively and proactively to prevent fatalities, injuries, and illnesses through a system focused on hazard prevention and control, worksite analysis, training, effective management, and worker involvement. VPP participants are exempt from OSHA programmed inspections while they maintain their VPP status. Voluntary Protection Program and on-site consultation services, when coupled with an effective enforcement program, expand worker protection to help meet the goals of the OSH Act. The 3 levels of VPPs, STAR, Merit, and Demonstration, are designed to recognize outstanding achievements by companies that have developed and implemented effective safety and health management systems. The VPPs motivate others to achieve excellent safety and health results in the same outstanding way as they establish a cooperative relationship between employers, employees, and OSHA. Success Story. Wrigley Field. The Chicago Cubs were undergoing a major renovation of Wrigley Field, focusing on structural steel and concrete work, bleacher expansion, and restoration in the outfield. Wrigley Field management and Pepper Construction prioritized safety from the start, implementing the Voluntary Protection Program, VPP, to ensure a safe working environment. Pepper Construction hired Brandenburg Industrial Service Company to demolish the outfield wall and bleachers. They conducted daily safety meetings, where potential work hazards and adjacent contractor activities were discussed. Brandenburg's safety manager also held weekly safety meetings and audits. Each worker filled out a safety task analysis card daily to remind them of hazards, preventive actions, and PPE requirements. This strong focus on safety resulted in 0 injuries or illnesses during the 1,400 total work hours of the project. Strategic Partnership Program. OSHA's Strategic Partnership Program, the newest of OSHA's cooperative programs, helps encourage, assist, and recognize the efforts of partners to eliminate serious workplace hazards and achieve a high level of worker safety and health. Whereas OSHA's consultation program and VPP entail one-on-one relationships between OSHA and individual worksites, most strategic partnerships seek to have a broader impact by building cooperative relationships with groups of employers and employees. These partnerships are voluntary, cooperative relationships between OSHA, employers, employee representatives, and others such as trade unions, trade and professional associations, universities, and government agencies. Strategic partnerships. National Electrical Contractors Association Central Ohio Chapter and International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local Unions 638 and 1105 number 773. As part of continuing efforts to improve safety and health for electrical workers, the U.S. Department of Labor's Occupational Safety and Health Administration has renewed a strategic partnership with the Central Ohio chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local Union 683 of Columbus, and Union 1105 of Newark. Associated Builders and Contractors Incorporated, ABC, Central Texas. The Texas chapters of Associated Builders and Contractors, ABC, and its member companies and the Texas offices of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration of the United States Department of Labor, OSHA, all mutually recognize the importance of ensuring a safe and healthful work environment in the construction industry. Training and education. OSHA's area offices offer a variety of information services, such as compliance assistance, technical advice, publications, audiovisual aids, and speakers for special engagements. OSHA's Training Institute in Arlington Heights, Illinois, provides basic and advanced courses in safety and health for federal and state compliance officers, state consultants, federal agency personnel, and private sector employers, employees, and their representatives. The OSHA Training Institute has also established OSHA Training Institute education centers to address the increased demand for its courses from the private sector and from other federal agencies. These centers are nonprofit colleges, universities, and other organizations that have been selected after a competition for participation in the program. There is a federal education center in each of the 10 federal regions. OSHA awards grants to nonprofit organizations through its Susan Harwood Training Grant Program in order to provide safety and health training and education to employers and workers in the workplace. Susan Harwood Training Grants. OSHA awards grants to nonprofit organizations on a competitive basis through its Susan Harwood Training Grant Program. Grants are awarded to provide training and education programs for employers and workers on the recognition, avoidance, and prevention of safety and health hazards in their workplaces and to inform workers of their rights and employers of their responsibilities under the Occupational Safety and Health (OSH) Act. Solicitation for the Susan Harwood Grant Program is a function of congressional budgetary approval and appropriation by the Department of Labor. OSHA established its discretionary grant program in 1978, entitled New Directions. Grantees were awarded for up to 5 years, with grantees increasing their share of support with the goal of becoming self-sufficient. Many of the grantee organizations continue to offer occupational safety and health training to this day. In 1990, the grants were restructured due to reductions in funding. In 1997, the program was renamed in honor of Susan Harwood, a former director of the Office of Risk Assessment and OSHA's Health Standards Directorate, who died in 1996. During her 17-year tenure with the agency, Harwood helped develop OSHA standards to protect workers exposed to bloodborne pathogens, cotton dust, benzene, formaldehyde, asbestos, and lead in construction. The types of grants solicited each year vary. Grants solicited in the past include capacity building, targeted topic, and training materials development grants. Capacity building grants focus on developing and/or expanding the capacity of an organization to provide safety and health training, education, and related assistance to the targeted audiences. The organization must provide financial plans to continue capacity beyond the grant period. 2 types of capacity building grants have been awarded. Click each image to view the details. Developmental. Pilot. Target topic grants focus on training workers and/or multiple employers on occupational safety and health hazards associated with one of the OSHA selected training topics. Training materials development grantees are expected to develop, evaluate, and validate classroom quality training materials on one of the OSHA selected training topics. OSHA's selected topics vary from year to year and are selected based on fatal statistics, national emphasis programs, and pending regulations. Topics are separated into general industry, construction, and other. Other topics may include safety and health issues from different sectors, maritime or oil and gas, or emerging topics, such as nanotechnology and green jobs. Training materials produced through the Susan Harwood Grant Program can be found here. Electronic information. OSHA has a variety of materials and tools available on its website. These include e-tools, expert advisors, electronic compliance assistance tools, e-CATs, technical links, regulations, directives, publications, videos, and other information for employers and employees. OSHA's software programs and compliance assistance tools walk you through challenging safety and health issues and common problems to find the best solutions for your workplace.
To mi daj, znači ovu mapu nisam vidio 100 godina. Najjača mapa.
Lesson Summary. The Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, OSHA Act, encourages states to develop and operate their own job safety and health plans, which OSHA then approves and monitors. There are currently 28 state territory plans. 22 cover both private and public, state and local government, employment. 6 states territories, Connecticut, Illinois, Maine, New Jersey, New York, and the Virgin Islands, have plans that cover the public sector only and use federal OSHA regulations for private industry. There are 28 states territories that use only federal OSHA regulations. Consultation assistance is available upon request to employers who want help in establishing and maintaining a safe and healthful workplace. Funded equally by OSHA and each state, consultation services are provided at no cost to the employer. Voluntary Protection Programs, VPPs, recognize employers and workers in the private industry who have implemented effective safety and health management systems and maintain injury and illness rates below National Bureau of Labor Statistics averages for their respective industries. To participate, employers must submit an application to OSHA and undergo a rigorous on-site evaluation by a team of safety and health professionals. OSHA's Strategic Partnership Program, the newest of OSHA's cooperative programs, helps encourage, assist, and recognize the efforts of partners to eliminate serious workplace hazards and achieve a high level of worker safety and health. OSHA's area offices offer a variety of information services, such as compliance assistance, technical advice, publications, audiovisual aids, and speakers for special engagements. OSHA's Training Institute in Arlington Heights, Illinois, provides basic and advanced courses in safety and health for federal and state compliance officers, state consultants, federal agency personnel, and private sector employers, employees, and their representatives. Module 16. Scaffolds. Module description. This module provides a general overview of the safety measures that are required when working on a scaffold. The module begins with an introduction to the various types of scaffolds and goes on to outline the OSHA safety requirements and safety measures that can be taken to ensure that employees working on scaffolds are safe. Module learning objectives. At the conclusion of this module, students will be able to describe the various classifications of scaffolds, discuss the basic OSHA safety requirements for scaffolding work, describe the measures that can be taken to ensure safe working conditions on a scaffold.
Nije.
Da.
Lesson 1. Introduction to Scaffolds. Lesson focus. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to explain what a scaffold is and how it works, describe the types of scaffolds. An estimated 2.3 million construction workers, or 65% of the construction industry, work on scaffolds. Protecting these workers from scaffold-related accidents may prevent some of the 4,500 injuries and over 60 deaths every year, at a savings for American employers of $90 million in workdays not lost. What is a scaffold? A scaffold is a term that describes any sort of temporary elevated platform that is used to support workers, materials, or both. They are commonly used in the construction field, usually in the construction of buildings. However, they are also used in other fields such as ship construction and by cleaning services, to clean the outer windows of high-rises. Workers who use scaffolds can be divided into three groups: erectors and dismantlers, scaffold users, scaffold designers. Types of scaffolds. There are two basic types of scaffolds. Supported scaffolds, which consist of one or more platforms supported by rigid, load-bearing members, such as poles, legs, frames, outriggers, etc. Suspended scaffolds, which are one or more platforms suspended by ropes or other non-rigid, overhead supports. Other types of equipment, principally scissor lifts and aerial lifts, can also be regarded as supported scaffolds. Suspended scaffolds. These are types of scaffolds that are suspended from a fixed overhead position, often placed at the top of a building, but it can be any fixed elevated structure. They are suspended by ropes or other non-rigid means. The various types of suspended scaffolds are discussed next. 2-point, swing stage. This is one of the most common types of suspended scaffolds. You see them frequently on construction sites as well as on skyscrapers and other high-rises where they are used by window washers and exterior building workers. The scaffold is hung from the top of a building by two ropes that are secured at either end of the platform, usually with stirrups to provide for vertical movement. The safe use of a suspended scaffold begins with secure anchorage. The weight of the scaffold and its occupants must be supported by both the structure to which it is attached and by each of the scaffold components that make up the anchorage system. Single-point adjustable, spider scaffolds. This scaffold is smaller than the 2-point scaffold, and it usually accommodates only one person at a time. It is secured to the top of the building using one rope from a fixed overhead support. As with the two-point scaffold, it has a mechanism to allow for vertical movement, up and down. It is often used by window washers to clean the outside of a skyscraper. It is also called a bosun's chair. Suspended scaffold platform. These consist of at least one platform, there may be more, but they rarely exceed a single platform, that is supported by more than 2 ropes. Usually 4 ropes are used, one secured at each corner of the platform, from an overhead structure and fitted with a mechanism to allow for vertical movement. They are commonly used as chimney hoists in the cleaning and repair of chimneys and/or other ventilation shafts. Interior hung. This scaffold consists of 2 parallel, horizontal beams upon which a board or plank is placed. It is then suspended by ropes, sometimes up to 4, one at each corner of the platform, from a roof or ceiling structures. Roof structures must be inspected before scaffolds are erected to ensure they can support the load. Suspension ropes or cables must be connected to overhead supports by shackles, clips, thimbles, or equivalent means. This type of scaffold is primarily used indoors because it must be hung from roof structures. Needle beam. In this case, the platform, usually a simple wooden board, is supported by 2 needle beams hung from ropes. Usually, one end of the platform is supported on the edge of a permanent structure, to which the scaffold support beams must be installed. Multi-level. A multi-level scaffold is a series of platforms that are arranged vertically, one on top of the other. Visually, it looks like 2 or more two-point scaffolds, or multi-point scaffolds, on top of one another. The platforms are placed within the same framework, secured by a single stirrup from the same fixed, overhead position. Float, ship. The float, or ship, scaffold consists of a platform supported by 2 bearers and is hung from a fixed overhead support with ropes. Supported scaffolds. These are scaffolds that consist of 1 or more platforms elevated on poles and beams, which are placed upon a solid ground. The various types of supported scaffolds are discussed next. Frame or fabricated. This is one of the most common types of scaffolds used. They are easy to build, economical, and practical. They range in size from small setups used for 1 or 2-story residential houses to large setups used on commercial projects. However, it is possible to make them stand several stories high if the need arises. They consist of 1 or multiple platforms elevated on tubes. Mobile. Mobile scaffolds are visually similar to frame scaffolds, but with one main difference: they are mounted on wheels or casters. They are commonly used by painters, plasterers, electricians, plumbers, and others who need to change position frequently. Pump jack scaffold. This scaffold consists of a platform that is elevated on a pair of vertical poles and fitted with movable brackets. The brackets allow the platform to be moved up and down using a jack, similar to those used to change a car tire. They are appealing because of their ability to be raised and lowered somewhat quickly and easily, and because they are relatively inexpensive. Ladder jack. This is a very simple scaffold. In this case, the platform is placed in brackets that are attached to a pair of ladders. They are mostly used for light applications. They are popular mostly due to their practicality, ease, and economy. Tube and coupler. In this case, tubes, which look like pipes, are placed together in a lattice-like framework using couplers, joints, to hold them together. The lattice-like pattern into which they are arranged adds balance and strength to the framework. Platforms can be placed at the top of the framework and at multiple levels. Tube and coupler scaffolds are often used to carry heavy weights, and they can be built to a height of multiple stories while being able to be erected to conform to the shape of a building. A prime advantage lies in that they can be built in several directions and combinations that cater to any structure. Poles. This type of scaffold is also known as a wood pole scaffold because every part of the scaffold, from the platform on down, is built using wooden poles and boards. There are 2 types: single pole, which are supported on one side, the interior side, by a fixed structure, such as a building, and 2 pole, which are supported by 2 sets of wooden poles on either side of the platform. They are not commonly used because they must be built from scratch, cannot be reused, and are difficult to erect and use in a safe and compliant manner. Specialty. There are a large number of scaffolds that are not widely used but rather are employed only in specific jobs. Some of the more common ones include the following: plasterers, decorators, and large area scaffolds. Bricklayers' square scaffolds. Horse scaffolds. Form scaffolds and carpenters' bracket scaffolds. Roof bracket scaffolds. Outrigger scaffolds. Window jack scaffolds. Crawling boards, chicken ladders. Step, platform, and trestle ladder scaffolds.